All right, I think we have Mr. Jones Sawyer signed in next. No, yeah, is it Shirley? Yes, Ms. Weber.
Thank you.
Wow, you almost gave you a heart attack.
You
didn't want it to sit through Jones Sawyer.
I was like, what kind of committee is this? This is my first appearance before B&P, and I'm already being kicked out. Wow.
First?
Good morning, everybody. Madam Chair and members.
Last.
No, let's hope not. Let's hope not.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're here today to present AB 1381, Sustainable Asset Appraisals. And renewable assets and retrofits have quickly become...
Hey.
Sounds like a plan to me.
I think should explain it.
Yeah, let me explain what it is. At least one of the challenges we have, this actual bill came out of the San Diego community, because we do have an emphasis and a focus in a lot of communities on making those communities have sustainable kind of entities in their homes. And in this case, it was a community really with solar panels, a working class community that put a lot of energy and emphasis in providing those kinds of things in their communities. And then they became concerned that in their community, their homes were valued as the same as anybody else across the street or in a similar neighborhood that had not done that. And so we discovered that there's really there needed to be greater training, folks to understand it, and not to say that it has to be of greater value, but there should be some training that occurs for those who are appraisers to basically be able to look at sustainable energy. And as we talk about and retrofits, and as we as a state begin to move more in that direction, we should really update the training. And so that's what this is about, basically asking that there be some ongoing training, a focus on that those who license it actually require some training in the area of sustainable energy and sustainable retrofits. And so the bill is still a work in progress. We've met with several entities, and there's one or two issues about those who are coming in who may not have that as their focus. They may be doing agricultural versus something else. So we'll continue to work with them, but we ask for your support for this particular bill, AB 1381.
Thank you. Others in support? Do we have anyone in opposition?
Do we have one person?
Welcome.
Thank you. Madam Chair and members, Mike Belote on behalf of the Appraisal Institute, California Government Relations Committee. Ms. Weber is correct. We've had very productive and cordial conversations. At this point, we're opposed to this version of the bill, and in particular Section 2, which imposes a mandatory continuing education requirement. You think about professions that we license in California, whether real estate agents or lawyers or doctors. We frequently have specific CE requirements related to the practice. In law, for example, you have to take courses in bias and substance abuse and that sort of thing, but not in substantive areas. You don't say, well, lawyers aren't good at family law, so you have to take family law. Some lawyers don't practice family law, so it would be inappropriate to require that. So, too, in appraisal, there are people who specialize in agricultural properties, as Ms. Weber noted, or in drainage canals and so on. So we think it's inappropriate to specify a particular practice area. Further, the bill is unspecific in terms of how much and that sort of thing, and we don't believe that's an appropriate delegation to the Bureau of Real Estate Appraisers. It is an important subject, and it's a complicated one, how appraisers get the information. There's all sorts of different types of solar and financing systems for solar and that sort of thing, and appraisers need to understand it. We do not object to Section 1 on pre-licensing education. In fact, that may already be federal law, although this clarification would be acceptable. But we'd like to respectfully ask that the CE obligation be amended out of the bill either today or if the bill moves forward.
Thank you. Anyone else in opposition? Comments from committee members? It looks like Mr. Jones, you'd like to say something, and then Ms. Baker.
Thank you. And Ms. Weber, I'm just going to chime in with the opposition. As a real estate licensee myself, I have to do a lot of continuing education, and the requirements in your bill currently, I'm not going to restate. I agree with the statements, and maybe your reaction. Right now, I can't support the bill. With those changes, I think I could.
Okay. Ms. Baker.
And I'm actually going to lay off because you sound like you are really very much in the process of focusing on the issue I most have concerns about, and it is a bit of an overbreadth. I just want to offer, you don't often look to the legal profession again for guidance on what you should do, but I think there are something that may be a proposal, and that is an attorney can't put themselves out as a specialist in intellectual property unless they've either taken a particular exam that is specific to that, and perhaps making it so that someone can't put themselves out as an appraiser who specializes in this area unless they've taken additional CLE in that particular area. So that's one potential solution. I'm sure there's others. I think there is a solution there. I look forward to supporting the bill if you get to that point. But for now, I'll lay off today and encourage continuing to work on that. And if I can offer ideas, I'd be happy to do it. Thank you.
Mr. Ting and then Ms. Aikman.
I would just ask Mr. Belote a question. Obviously, given the thousands of solar homes that we now have in California, we're moving toward significant amounts of renewable energies in homes. What is your client's answer to Dr. Weber's concern, obviously, that this be valued consistently from property to property, home to home?
Yeah. Actually, the Appraisal Institute is pretty much a national leader in putting out guidance on the value that can be added, not always, but often is added by solar installations. They have created a national registry, for example, where appraisers who have taken required education can add their name to the registry, not unlike a specialist, if you will. And that registry is not exclusive to Appraisal Institute members. I am told that about 150 California appraisers are on the registry, of which approximately 120 are non-members. So it is open to any appraiser. And so maybe there's an avenue there in terms of the kind of specialty thing that Ms. Baker referred to. So actually, the Appraisal Institute is doing a lot on solar.
Great, thank you. I'm going to vote for this bill today, but my hope is that the two of you can continue to work together to find a path forward so that every appraiser can address Dr. Weber's concerns.
Ms. Aikman.
Thank you, and thank you for bringing this forward, Ms. Weber. Maybe it's because I'm sitting on the side over here today, but I also have concerns about. I'll also be laying off the bill today. I didn't see an identified problem. I saw an identified potential problem, but when I was looking over everything, I didn't see any evidence that a problem existed that needed a legislative fix at this time. And anytime I think we add to what everybody has to take in continuing education, it needs to be to address a problem. I mean, anytime we want to do something on the medical or certainly as a licensed clinical social worker, somebody comes up with an idea about, more things that I have to do for my license. Well, what's the problem? And am I working with that population? So I'll be laying off today, and we'll see when it comes forward, because I think it's an important issue, but we also, when people get licensed and when people go through training, we trust that the people who are providing that training are keeping up with the trends across the country, and certainly in the state. Hopefully we're going to have more on gray water and all kinds of things that come on, and I think, as people say, maybe perhaps you can get a certificate in being an expert at certain times. But as far as I know, real estate people and mortgage folks are always trying to make sure that appraisal is as correct as it can be. So until I really see an identified problem, I'm not willing to vote for a fix.
Mr. Dodd.
Yes, I'm going to support the motion today, the bill today, but I am moved by the industry's concerns about expertise fields, and hopefully you'll be working with them to come to a resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Would you like to address those issues in your?
Yes, we have. First of all, this became a major problem in San Diego, particularly, and as we checked up and down the state, we discovered that it was a concern that those who because of the fact that we are doing more and more in solar, particularly in solar, and we're telling people that this adds value to your home. And yet when the assessments are done, the value is not evident that it is there. It adds value to the community overall in terms of the environment, but it's not adding value to their homes. And so there are several communities that were very concerned that in looking at the appraisal of their home, which is very similar to people in the same block, same neighborhood, same kind of tract home, that value was not evident in the appraisals that were done in a number of homes in San Diego. So we had quite an outcry from particularly in a couple of communities in the Broadway Heights area. So there is a growing concern, and when we approached the issue, there was no real clear understanding in the field itself of appraisals that this is what we do and this is what people need to do, and that if you get an appraiser, it doesn't necessarily means this person had this level of training. We are committed to continuing to work with the association as we've talked about, and in fact, in our most recent conversation, because we're obviously up against a timeline because of this being a 2-year bill, in our recent conversation, we are looking at specialization so that those who are being trained get initially who are getting the license, but those who come back and say, I want to be that, I want to be specialized in that, we're looking at, my staff and I were talking about that language today to begin to look at that so that if you already are licensed and you're doing CE education, but you want to add this to you because you want to be certified to be able to go into those homes and to be able to do that, then that adds a value. And those who have it, whose homes are being evaluated, then can ask those questions. Have you had the training? Are you certified? Can you really effectively deal with the appraisal of my home versus any other home? And so we are working on that, and we are committed to making sure that we basically cover those areas, and that will be coming forward. As we talk, we've had several meetings, and we will continue to meet and to work, and we have opportunity and time to get that done.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And I will just comment also that I think this is a worthwhile discussion to continue. Mm-hmm. And I will have to note that all continuing education bills were vetoed by the governor last year. So I encourage you to take a different pathway to achieve the goal of special notice and certification as probably a more successful pathway to take. So this is a
duly noted.
And I tend to agree. If anyone who's been required to do continuing education, it just can be quite a torment. So I guess the governor must have had to do that at some point in his education to feel this way. This is a due pass to. Did you have a comment? We have a timeline here, but yeah, I think we need to. Yeah, we need to get it going. Due pass to appropriations. Hope we have the votes.
Bonilla.
Aye.
Bonilla, aye. Jones.
No.
Jones, no. Baker. Baker not voting. Bloom.
Aye.
Bloom, aye. Campos. Campos, aye. Chang. Not voting. Chang not voting. Dodd. Aye. Dodd, aye. Eggman. Gatto.
No.
Gatto, no. Holden. Aye. Holden, aye. Mullen. Ting. Aye. Ting, aye. Wilk.
No.
Wilk, no. Wood. Aye. Wood, aye. 7-3.
All right, it's 7-3. You do need one more vote.
Okay.
And if you don't get it, put it in another bill and bring it back. I'll fix it up for us in a couple months.
Sounds good. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. It is on call. Mr. Jones Sawyer, we want Ms. Weber to have a good experience in our committee. First time here, we want her to come back.
I think that's too late. Good morning, Madam Chair and colleagues. As I begin, I want to make sure and thank you and the committee staff for the collaborative effort with my office on this bill. Today, I would like to introduce AB 26. AB 26 will require that anyone who is applying to obtain a license to cultivate, distribute, dispense, or manufacture medical marijuana have an agent and employee training certification program. The need for AB 26 comes from an unresolved issue following the signing of the trio of bills, AB 266, AB 243, and SB 643, which created the Medical Marijuana Regulation and Safety Act in 2015. At the time, there was not agreement on how best to handle the training of workers who deal with ill patients or cultivate and process the products for consumption. Cannabis workers need the vital knowledge of their product and how to best serve the needs of people suffering from serious diseases. Whether they are working with patients in the dispensary, cultivating at farms, or assisting in the manufacturing and processing, these workers and the public need to know that they are educated in the best possible health, safety, and security standards set by the state. AB 26 will require a state licensee to institute and maintain a training program for the licensee's agents, and employees regarding compliance with MMRSA, and we require that an application for state licensure include a detailed description of the applicant's program. Here to testify today is Sam Rodriguez, representing the sponsor, the United Food and Commercial Workers of Western States Council, and it looks like he grew. There's some more people here, too. But I will start with Mr. Rodriguez. Thank you, and I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Member Joan Sawyer, members of the committee. Sam Rodriguez, the Legislative Director for United Food and Commercial Workers State Council. We represent approximately 160,000 workers, primarily in the grocery industry, but also in the farming industry. But more importantly, for this particular bill, we have over 1,200 cannabis workers in the state of California. We also have workers in the state of Washington, Oregon, the state of Colorado, and currently we're now in negotiations with the governor of Minnesota and medical marijuana legislation. So we have over 5 years of experience, and here's the things that we learned. We learned that currently the workforce in the cannabis industry is not a professionalized workforce. There's a great need for training in both in the dispensary and the cultivation sites. There is a lack of knowledge of the product. There's a lack of knowledge of Cal OSHA standards. There's a lack of knowledge about workers' rights, unemployment insurance, disability insurance, workers' comp. So there is a variety of issues that we've learned over the years that need to be addressed. This bill will begin to address these issues under the Department of Consumer Affairs. And with that, we ask for your aye vote.
Thank you. Others in support? In support?
Barry Broad with the Teamsters. We're also involved in this industry, and the fact of the matter is this industry has existed in the shadows, and it needs to come out of the shadows now. We can't have child labor, for example, in the industry. We can't have people, working in the middle of the night after hour after hour after hour. It's got to be a regular industry where there's banking and the workers get a paycheck and they deposit their paycheck on their Social Security, and there's training. And this is a drug. And it can be a very powerful drug, and it needs to be dispensed appropriately under our laws, and the workers need to know what they're doing. And so it's time for this industry to come out of the shadows and be like every other industry. Urge an aye vote.
Thank you. In support?
Yeah, Jonathan Feldman with the California Police Chiefs Association. Cal Chiefs was a significant stakeholder in developing the regulatory framework around medical marijuana last year, specifically in ensuring that our police departments can trace and verify the legal operations of the medical marijuana industry. Part of that requires a workforce that is trained and understands how to comply by the new laws. So we are in full support, and thank the Assembly member for continuing to work on this issue.
Thank you.
Cesar Diaz with the State Building and Construction Trades Council. Also want to thank the Assembly member and the sponsors of this bill for working with us. We do see this as a growing industry that has evolved. A lot of the chemicals that they work with, I think there has to be some safety training, impacts to the environment as well. So we're glad that this bill is moving forward, and we urge your support.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, Mitch Seaman with the California Labor Federation, also here in strong support. We believe that training overall, investments in training overall, tend to pay off down the line in a variety of ways, and specifically the areas of training outlined in this bill with respect to things like legal requirements, better patient care, occupational safety and health standards. These not only will give us a medical cannabis infrastructure that works better for patients, but also is one that will work a lot better for workers and will save employer costs down the line. We urge your support.
Thank you. Others in support? Anyone in opposition?
Hi there, my name is Raymond Strack. I agree with a lot of what's been said about the need for regulation in the medical marijuana industry. Obviously, that is it's a given. As a participant in that industry for going on 6 years now, my question in regards to some of these proposed changes of the MMRSA, which were only from last week, we just question from whence these best practices are coming from. We feel as stakeholders within this process, we have not been spoken to a whole lot. there are larger interests here that are not specific to our industry, and we would just like some input on where these best practices are coming from and some of the timelines regarding moving from medicinal co-ops under 215 to the new MMRSA. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
My name's Wayne Wallant. I'm president of Siskiyou Alternative Medicine up in Siskiyou County. I'm representing basically 1,000 members. Everyone's got issues with this. I'm in support of medical marijuana regulation. Absolutely. I'm not really one of the people for the Adult Use Act. But medical, yes. But there are issues with this bill. We're in support as long as there are some amendments taken and put in place. County control or city control should take place, but banning should not be a word in there. All it's going to do is encourage the black market very strongly. I mean, we see this every day. We talk to people not just in our county but all over the state, and we'd rather stay small. Not large industry standards. At least there should be something between one and the other. Big grows or small grows. We call it the get high crowd and the get well crowd, and we belong to the get well crowd. And it is medicine for a lot of us. I've got 9 crushed discs. It's the only thing keeping me standing. So, we would like to become a stakeholder in the amendments of the bill. And we don't know how to do that. I mean, we're just, a bunch of volunteers.
You're in the right place to accomplish that with the author and the sponsor here.
Right. That's our intent, is to be here and try to help this. It's an issue with the state of California. It's a bigger issue up in our portion of the state. Right now, we are in a full ban in Siskiyou County. Other counties are just going right along and banning. And that's a big issue. Where's everyone going to get this marijuana if it's nothing but banned everywhere? Cities, counties, everywhere. Where's it going to get? How's it going to get to the dispensaries if there isn't any? And that's what it looks like the state of California is heading. Is you know how things go? They get banned. That ban gets lifted maybe 5 years, 8 years, 10 years down the line. We have the Compassionate Use Act. We would like that to also be incorporated in there in some method. I mean, it was voted in. We just want compassion here. There are people in need, and it may be the medicine of their choice. Not everybody has to partake.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
My name's Doug Starwald. I'm from Siskiyou County also. All 3 of us are. I am complete support of what he's talking about for the commercial grows. The problem is the way this thing is if they pretty much turn cannabis into an entire commercial grow. My problem with that is Siskiyou County it's one of the poorest counties there are, but it's also one of the largest counties. We do not want to be in the commercial cannabis business. What we want to do is to be able to grow for the patients that we have. The thing that is written up in front of us doesn't. It makes us all commercial growers. I believe that there should be something in there that states that if you're 3,100 square feet, no more than 48 plants does not constitute a commercial grow. That would not require a state license, but would require the county license and county taxation. That is my biggest complaint. I mean, if everything goes to a commercial grow, where's the patient saving on the money at? Now they have to go to a dispensary. The whole part of us being able to grow for patients is to keep the cost down. I would really like to see it to where the counties have more control rather than the state, and let's not turn this entire medical marijuana thing into a commercial crop. There's those of us that are not interested in doing the commercial crop. Siskiyou County is one of those. Unfortunately, there's a whole lot of growers in Siskiyou County. We are proud to be Siskiyou County growers, but we are really not interested in being commercial farmers. That's all I have to say. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else in opposition? Any questions from the committee members? Yes, Mr. Wood, Mr. Campos.
Just some comments. First of all, thank you, Mr. Jones Sawyer, for bringing this forward. Appreciate that. The clarification, I think, is really, really important. I think it's really important going forward that as this industry continues to evolve and come out into the light, that we have worker safety, that we have assurances that people are actually handling things like was brought up by someone, even banking, which is something we haven't even begun to address at this point. So I appreciate the concerns brought to us by the folks from Siskiyou County. The bills are passed. This is a cleanup legislation. This is aimed at business practices, at patient safety, about worker safety. That's what this bill is about. So there's going to be opportunities to engage in the regulatory process, and I encourage you to do that. But this bill is very specific in looking for training for workers in dispensaries, training for people cultivating, training for people in all varieties of this particular industry, and that means consistency, and that means predictability, and that means worker safety. And so for me, that is the justification for this bill, and I'm going to be very happy to support this and move it forward.
Ms. Campos?
Thank you. I just wanted to kind of reiterate what my colleague, Mr. Wood, just stated, that this is a cleanup bill and that you are addressing an issue that I think kind of got left out as the other ones, is the workers. This is their profession now, and to make sure that they are getting the training so that they handle this in a very safe manner as the product is moving forward. So I want to commend you and the authors for recognizing that component needed some work, and I'm hoping that this bill, as it moves forward, will address those issues so that there is worker safety as they are handling a particular product. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Jones.
Thank you. Mr. Jones, sir, to the bill, there's some language in here that I don't understand. Some of the language giveth and some of the language taketh away. So you're giving the Bureau the authority to adopt the standards for approval of the training programs. I'm sorry, I'm on page 10. And on the very next section, so B1 gives the Bureau the authority for the training standards, but then Section 2, the Bureau shall not approve a training program provided or proposed to be provided by or through an apprenticeship programs approved by the Chief of the Division of Apprenticeship Standards, which, my understanding, the Division of Apprenticeship Standards is a pretty well-respected division, in California in the industrial relations. So why don't we trust them in this case?
This, Mr. Jones, this is an agreement between the Building and Trades and USCW. There was a recognition that the Department of Consumer Affairs has a long history in non-traditional apprenticeship programs, right? And the Division of Apprenticeship and Standards is pretty much Building and Trades as a whole history in and by itself. So we're very comfortable with DCA being the agency of authority to establish those standards for the workers.
Okay, so basically we're all right. I guess that kind of makes some sense, but kind of reading between the lines a little bit, it sounds like to me that the legislature is defining which labor organization has the right to organize these workers. What if they want to organize under a different labor organization?
It has nothing to do with the labor organization.
Well, UFCW is the sponsor.
Yes.
And you're saying you don't want to be under DIR because of you'd rather be under DCA.
So I'm going to defer to my colleague, Cesar Diaz, on behalf of the Building Trades.
If you'd like to respond?
Absolutely. And that's a good question, ASM member, but the language in the bill has nothing to do with labor management or just labor in and of itself. The language with you reference to Department of Industrial Relations is because we have been working with the UFCW, because our apprenticeship programs that are in the building and construction trades that make up the majority, as was stated, of the apprenticeship programs that have been state approved, also do a lot of drug testing. As you can imagine, when we have apprentices on the job, we have situations where our contractors don't want to be exposed to a lot of the workers' comp liabilities that could happen with regards to apprenticeships. So the tie-in and having the mixed message of an apprenticeship program that's also for the cannabis industry is sort of a message that we did not want to send. So with this agreement, there's a The standards will actually be the same for the workers. The safety components will also be addressed. And I believe because the bill allows for any entity to come in,
that's correct.
It does not necessarily have to be a labor organization.
So basically, had two great minds come together to put this together.
Is this double referred?
Yeah.
Going to appropriation.
Yeah, I think that I asked in rules for this to be double referred to labor because of these issues. I think the labor committee should have some oversight over this legislation, and I understand the answer, and there's a lot more detail in there that I don't understand. So I'm going to lay off today. I'm not going to vote no against it, but so I can get some better understanding on some of this before it comes to the floor.
Okay.
And I think that you highlight that issue, which I think is important to note. But I will say that DCA and this new bureau oversees training for every license and profession. We just talked about training for appraisers. And so it just fit better into an actual training program for workers. And as stated, there is no preconceived labor union in this bill at all. This is about training of workers for their safety, but also for consumers, which is part of our mandate here in our committee. If you're going to buy an edible, you want to know you're buying it from somebody who has processed it in a clean and proper manner with the right dosages of that you are thinking you're getting. So that's really the focus of this bill. It's for the protection of the consumer and also for worker safety, and it falls into that very broad worker training and licensing training that we oversee constantly in this committee. So in the future, if there's some change, it might go somewhere else. But I think for our purposes, it really is in our preview as a committee. Ms. Baker?
And perhaps I should have asked this when the prior witness was here, but I understand the reasoning as well. But why is it necessary that the Bureau shall not approve training programs in order to address that issue? Because this doesn't say that, it doesn't leave the option available to them to potentially do it. It says you can't do it. So if that's one area I just need to understand, why is it necessary to say you're not allowed to do that at all, as opposed to where the authority is going to be?
The Bureau is allowed, is given the authority to develop standards
right.
in the
That's
program.
in Section 1. And Section 2 shall not approve a training program provided or proposed, the same section that Mr. Jones mentioned.
That is under the California Department of Industrial Relations. It's a different agency whatsoever.
Or through an apprenticeship program, you have to do the entire state.
Okay, got it.
DIR has no authority over it.
It's basically saying these are not apprenticeship programs. This is going to be a regular worker training program. The
Similar
Bureau
to nail
will develop it
nail
and approve it.
technicians, cosmetics, dental assistants, healthcare assistants, right? And providing consistency under the training with also the licensing, which is all under DCA.
Thank you.
So we are staying out of the whole apprenticeship world with this bill, which actually should probably means it's maybe more straightforward in that manner. Okay, I think, do we have a motion? I want to make sure you're accepting your amendments,
Yes,
technical amendments, and your close. Would you like to close? Do you have a close?
Yes, I respectfully ask for your aye vote, and I am accepting the technical amendments.
Thank you. All right. And this is a due pass to appropriations as amended to appropriations. Thank you.
Bonilla?
Aye.
Bonilla, aye. Jones?
No.
Jones.
I'm sorry, not voting.
Jones not voting. Baker? Aye. Baker, aye. Bloom?
Aye.
Bloom, aye. Campos? Aye. Campos, aye. Chang? Aye. Chang, aye. Dodd? Aye. Dodd, aye. Eggman? Aye. Eggman, aye. Gatto? Aye. Gatto, aye. Holden? Aye. Holden, aye. Mullen?
Aye.
Mullen, aye. Ting? Aye. Ting, aye. Wilk? Aye. Wilk, aye. Wood? Aye. Wood, aye. 8-0.
13-0, you tie Mr. Lowe. I do want to make an announcement also for those in the audience that we are having a hearing on the implementation of our large marijuana bills next Tuesday, the 19th of January. That will be held at 1:30 to 4 or 4:30. It's a joint hearing with Business and Professions, Agriculture Committee, Mr. Dodd, and the Health Committee, Mr. Bonta. So we encourage you all to come. The focus really is on the implementation. We didn't have a very thorough opportunity as a committee to review the bill at the end of last session. It was kind of a rush through with a lot of without a lot of our involvement. So this is an opportunity for all of us to be able to take part in this hearing next Tuesday afternoon. And we do have bills on call. And we have the AB 758, item 1, Chow. This was the acupuncture bill. I had a no reco on this bill.
Eggman? No. Eggman, no. Gatto? Aye. Gatto, aye. Holden? Holden, not voting. Mullen? Mullen, not voting.
The vote on that is 4-7. The measure fails. And as I said earlier, we have sunset on acupuncture happening in March. Item number 7, AB 1381, Weber.
Mullen? Aye. Mullen, aye.
Okay, that bill is out, 8-3. And the consent calendar. Does anyone want to add on to consent who wasn't here to vote earlier? Aye. Consent calendar, Eggman is an aye. Were you here for consent?
I don't think
You were out of the room. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll add on now for absent members. So we have Eggman.
Consent calendar, Mr. Dodd? Aye. Mr. Mullen?
Aye. Mr. Holden, were you here for consent?
Yeah.
Consent calendar?
Yeah.
Good.
I don't think you voted on this.
So, AB 796. AB 796, Nazarian, Dodd? Aye. Dodd, aye. Mullen?
Aye.
Mullen, aye. Mr. Johnson, consent. Miss Weber. And AB 1386, Mullen? Aye.
That was Lowe's bill. Okay, great. We got everybody. Good hearing.
You have me down for 1381.
Yes, thank
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Dodd, aye.
you. Yeah, you're an aye. Great, thank you. With that, we'll adjourn the meeting.